Namaste and welcome. In our program, Yoga for Unity and Well-Being, this week we are focusing on well-being. It being the International Day of Families, we welcome three exceptional moms. We have Leanna Mora, founder of Multicultural Kids Blog, Jennifer Burder, founder of World Moms Network, and Purnima Ramakrishnan, a UN award-winning journalist and senior Heartfulness trainer. The three of them get together to celebrate just how much our world, in all its diversity of cultures, languages, traditions, can yet find a joy in the unity, and how our children, who are exposed today to so many multicultural influences, can make the most of it and come together to create harmony in the world, in the future, for themselves and everyone around them. We hope you enjoy this and wishing all of us a wonderful observance of the International Day of Families. Namaste.
Hello and welcome to today's webinar. This webinar commemorates the International Day of Families, which falls on the 15th of May every year. International Day of Families promotes the importance of a healthy and well-balanced family. This year, 2021, the observance of this day focuses on the impact of new technologies on the well-being of families, and rightly so, as we've all experienced an unprecedented dependence on technology in this past 1 to 1.5 years especially. So families around the world are changing a lot. We are becoming smaller units and the number of single parent households is also increasing. This diminishing number of extended families as in aunts, uncles, grandparents, all living together or living in units which is very close by, is diminishing actually. And the increasing number of single parent families coupled with the fact of social distancing has all made us think about the social and emotional protection which is required for our families. In this context, I have with me two creative and resourceful women who have kept together organizations based on diversity, yet binding them with the essence of that same diversity. Please join me in welcoming Leanna Guillen Mora of the Multicultural Kids Blog and Jennifer Burder from the World Moms Network. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you, Purnima. I'm happy to be here with you both.
The pleasure is ours. So let me begin by introducing Leanna and Jennifer. Leanna is the founder of Multicultural Kids Blog. She also blogs about positive parenting, global education at her personal blog, All Done Monkey. She draws inspiration from writings of the Baha'i faith. Her husband is from Costa Rica and they are raising their children to be bilingual and bicultural, but more importantly, to be world citizens. Thank you so much, Leanna, for joining us. I'm going to introduce Jennifer now. Jennifer Burder is the founder and CEO of World Moms Network, an award-winning organization focusing on global motherhood, culture, human rights, and social good. World Moms Network writes from 30 countries and is listed by Forbes as one of the best 100 websites for women. Currently, Jennifer is pursuing an executive master's of public affairs with a concentration in global policy at Columbia University in NYC. Welcome, Jennifer, and welcome, Leanna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we actually begin the webinar, Leanna and Jennifer, would you like to share a little bit about your respective organizations?
I'm founded Multicultural Kid Blogs because kind of in recognition of the fact that so many of us are now in multicultural marriages. We marry people who are from different cultures, or even if maybe we haven't, we are traveling a lot more than we used to. We're living in neighborhoods that are more diverse. And so just in recognition of the fact that our lives have become much more multicultural and thinking about how that changes how we raise our children. And so it's a collection of bloggers from all over the world that all focus on some aspect of that. Some are travel bloggers, some focus on food from different cultures, some do wonderful crafts from different cultures, but all focused on creating resources to help people raise little world citizens. So.
I just wanted to let the audience know that Leanna and I have worked on social good projects before in the past with both of our organizations, so it's exciting. So about World Moms Network, I founded World Moms Network in 2010. I was looking for a website where I could learn where mothers around the world were doing things. And that's exactly how we started out. We started out writing about our lives as mothers, and it's kind of eventually grown into this social good and human rights type of writing place. And we began to align ourselves very much so with the UN's global goals, which are now the Sustainable Development Goals. And this June, we are relaunching again behind the scenes to start producing more regular content. So we're very excited about that. But as Purnima mentioned, we write from 30 countries on motherhood, culture, human rights, and social good. And I'm excited to talk about families today. So
thank you so much, Leanna and Jennifer, for that. So let's begin the webinar. And as we begin the webinar, I would like to, talk about some practical ways by which we can expose kids to other cultures, because as we know, culture can act as the best vehicle for sending a message of unity. And today's webinar is titled as Unity in Diversity. I would love to know what you suggest as ways and means to expose kids to other cultures.
One of the things that we've done with our family is back in 1993, I had done a foreign exchange to Japan. And I kept in touch with my host family. And in 2019, I was able to bring my whole family to the little town, or actually, it's not quite a little town, it's a big city of Fukui in Japan, to meet my host family. And my host brothers and sisters also had kids my children's age, and so they got to make things like washi paper together and go to different shrines. And it was just such a great way for the cultures to intermingle.
I think travel has been an important part for our family as well, to expose them to new cultures or just to reconnect to their own heritage. As Purnima mentioned, my husband's from Costa Rica, so probably the main place that we travel to outside of the US is to Costa Rica to get to see our family there, help them really reconnect and get to know where their father grew up, and and practice the language, because it's one thing for us to be teaching them Spanish here, but to travel there and actually really be forced to speak the language and try all the different foods has been really important. Another thing that I did this mostly when my kids were really small, but I think it would be really neat to do for school age kids. Like you could start a multicultural club, but we had a multicultural moms group when my kids were really small, and we got together and had play dates, and we would do it either around a culture. And I mean, I think I was the only one who was actually from the US. We had people from all over. And so they would have, one or two moms would put together a play date all about their culture. And they would make food or buy food or, music and crafts or something for all the kids. So it was neat for the kids because they felt proud of what it was being shared and getting to share it with their little friends. And it was also, kids love eating food and snacks and candy from other cultures. Like that was really fun, and getting to do really fun things together. And it was such a diverse group. Like I said, we did it with like preschool age kids, but I could see that being a great activity for our older kids as well, like a club through school. So that was really important, or even just exploring around our neighborhood. Most big cities now, they have either ethnic neighborhoods, or like we have an Indian grocery store just a few blocks away from us. And I was thinking about it, with this webinar coming up, this past weekend, my husband and my oldest son stopped by the Indian grocery store because they love getting popsicles from there with the different flavors that we never find in our grocery stores, or like different kinds of snacks that they can find there. And that's, or restaurants. Especially if you live in a big city, there's so many different ways to explore cultures, even now when we can't really travel as much as we used to.
Mm-hmm. Leanna, you reminded me of something too when you said about the popsicles and the different flavors. When we were in Japan, we tried an ice cream. Well, obviously we tried matcha ice cream, which was really yummy, but we found this flavor called goma, which is the Japanese word for sesame. And we just tried it on a whim and we're like, sesame ice cream, what's that? Let's give it a whirl. And my kids loved it. And so we were just kind of laughing. We were like, we would have never thought of this before. And it just kind of like traveling kind of opens your mind to different things and, you know, even different flavors. So it's pretty cool. And I guess too, also when you mentioned about cities and exploring, it reminded me of a time when I had been in the Netherlands with my family, and we met up with a world mom named Mirjam, and Mirjam decided for us to meet in the town of, or the city of Delft, which was the old town where they made the pottery or the china that was painted with the blue that the Netherlands is very known for. And so we went to meet there, and she had created an entire scavenger hunt for our family, so that the kids would, you know, like a great icebreaker for them, so they would begin to talk quicker than normal. And it was really fun. So they went all around this town, and at this one point they were on this big, you know, wooden clog, you know, that they had to find and mark off, and they walked all around the town. And it was just like, whenever we can find opportunities where we can get our kids to meet kids that aren't from where they're from, or do different things that they do, I think it's such a rewarding time. You know, it's great for the kids, but it also feels right as a parent. It feels good. I feel like I'm on the right track when I do those types of things.
And I think you've also hit on something else that's important, is that I think one of the main ways we can expose our kids to other cultures, but also have them do it in a really like a culturally sensitive way, and to approach other cultures with respect, is how we model it. And when we have genuine friendships, like you have with your friends in the Netherlands, when we have genuine friendships with people who are different from us or come from a different place, I think the kids then grow up seeing that this is normal. Totally. Like, it's normal to have friends that are from somewhere else. It's normal to travel and try new things and to meet someone else and to try to speak their language. They see this as the norm, versus us just telling them, but then all of our friends, all of our grown-up friends look like us. Well, which message are they going to really take in? So I think like you said, the modeling of it really makes a big difference, and then giving them opportunities to practice it.
That's a great point, Leanna. Thank you. Yeah, I love the modeling.
Thank you so much, Leanna and Jennifer. There were like a lot of beautiful ideas which you shared: traveling, food, friendships with different culture, and parents being experts in modeling. But you know, there is also this aspect of, in the last 1 to 1.5 years, the situation has changed drastically with the COVID-19 pandemic. So what ideas would you like to share now at this instant of time, which we can use in our families to help the kids learn about new cultures, learn about diversity, yet in a very beautiful way, sitting inside the closed confines of our homes?
Well, I was just going to say that it really has been challenging, because you know, we both talked about travel and exploring, and it's been so hard during the pandemic. I think so many of us feel like we're just stuck in our houses, and our kids, I think, feel that frustration also. One of the things we've done is their virtual field trips. Some of that has been available through our school system. But also a lot of organizations and institutions have opened up, like museums and other things that maybe weren't open in the past. So there are a lot more online resources where you can kind of travel from your own living room, as long as you have internet access. And we've continued to do books. Reading is really important to us. Like, this is one that we just got, I actually got it to review on my blog recently, The ABCs of Black History. And that has been really neat to use with them, to show them about different aspects of it, and especially like really beautiful. I mean, my kids are younger, but really beautiful picture books, or if your kids are older, there's so much more available these days. Chapter books that are set in other places, graphic novels. And that's a really easy way to learn about other cultures, or music, or try cooking dishes from other places. Or if you are able to go to a restaurant or pick up from a restaurant, you can still be trying other kinds of foods, although that is a little more challenging now. But I think those have been really important to us. One way that that was kind of funny for us is my kids love gaming online. Like, they do a lot of Minecraft and things like that. And I had have a friend, she's a part of Multicultural Kid Blogs, who's in Poland and she wanted her kids to practice English. And so she said, well, how about you play Minecraft with these American kids, but you have to do it in English. And of course, my kids were thrilled to be doing it, that they were helping somebody with their English, and they basically got to play Minecraft. It was kind of a challenge to find like the right time as far as the time zone, but they had so much fun playing and connecting with them. I mean, that's been a way that they've kept in touch with their kids, their friends locally that they also can't see is sometimes they'll play Minecraft or different things together. But, you know, why not play with somebody across the world or have a pen pal? We've done that also as the way to still keep in touch.
Yeah, so I totally, when you said Minecraft, I am like, I know where you're going with this. So my daughter's also a Minecraft gamer. And one of the things that's been is different, she's joined in different online clubs, such as things that have to do with Minecraft, but also book fan clubs. And so she finds that she's in these clubs with kids that, you know, aren't from her town, not even from her state, and some outside her country. And so then she's like with a teacher and also these other students that she normally wouldn't be exposed to, which is has been a lot of fun for her. You know, I told her after this, we're going to have to go around and travel and meet everyone. They've been all together all throughout the pandemic. But something else I wanted to mention was so my husband is from England, but we normally don't only see his family about twice a year. And prior to the pandemic, we hadn't really been that great about, you know, getting on the phone with them or even getting on Zoom with them. But because of the pandemic, we began to do weekly Zoom calls, and with his family, which also includes my kids' cousins overseas. And so we started to play that game Among Us all together. And so even like their grandma and grandpa play over in England, or grandma and granddad, as I should say. And it's just been like a way that we can all get together and we're on Zoom, but we're actually doing something. And so we've probably spent more time with them since the pandemic than we ever had, which was kind of neat. It was sweet.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Leanna. You know, I was just about to ask, how do you navigate with your respective families, the aspects of everyday bonding and spending time with families and extended families? But I think you just partially answered that too. I totally like this idea of pen pals, which Leanna said. And my son used to be a pen pal with one of our Brazilian contributors for a short while. I think now they've gone out of touch. Maybe this is a good time to reinitiate that conversation. She goes by the pen Eva, and she's from Brazil. And they're about the same age. And it used to be fun for them. If you have other ideas for everyday bonding.
One thing we did, this was early on in the pandemic, in our religious community, because we had a lot of people in the community that lived alone. And so we knew that they were, you know, going to be feeling more shut off from people. And so with the children's class, we had them either, depending on the age, either draw a picture or make a card, just kind of thinking of you card. And we sent them to the people in our community, especially the older people that were on their own, as a way to kind of try and help people stay connected, especially for the older ones who, you know, a lot of our community gatherings shifted to Zoom, and that was a lot harder for them. So sending cards was kind of a nice way to let them know that people were thinking about them.
Something we did is, well, first of all, when the pandemic was more serious or more everything was more shut down, we weren't able to go into the retirement village where my aunts live. And well, what we could do is we could drop off things to them. They had a table outside the community, and they would take the stuff and we'd say where it goes to, and they would deliver it. So we would pick up stuff like toilet paper, all those things that you couldn't get, and we'd drop off supplies. But every time we did that, the girls would either, you know, make a little drawing or write a little card out to them, just to kind of let them know that, like, hey, we're thinking about you. And of course we used FaceTime a lot to get to see them. But once the community was able to let us in, we would, show up like either outside with masks, so that they can at least like come out or something, or we would go in and drop off something and, stay a short time. And it just got better. I think it was a better experience for our older relatives too, because they knew that someone was thinking about them. And we felt like it was something we can do because we were all home and there wasn't much we could do about anything. So we did those types of things.
Thank you so much, Jennifer and Leanna. I was leading on to that, which you both mentioned. I was just thinking, with the onset of the pandemic, a lot has changed with regards to how we spend time with our elders, with our extended family. And it's not just about the generational knowledge or the wisdom which we harness from the older generation, from the elder generation, but it's also about how we view them, how we treat them, how we remember them. And right now my son is just becoming a teenager, and the pandemic has set in. So with this shift in his life and how much of his elders he should be in touch with at this specific time in his life makes a big difference. So I would like to ask this question specifically about Wisdom Bridge, and how do you see this opportunity with the pandemic to spend time with our elders and still have a meaningful relationship, meaningful passing on of wisdom to the younger generation?
I think it really has been challenging because, so many of the older people have had a really hard time with shifting onto the new technology. I know my parents, it was a challenge for them, but they worked it out. And so now they are totally Zoom savvy just because they've had to be, they're there by that. So it's been easier with them because we are able to get on Zoom with them or WhatsApp or things like that. And they've been able to stay in touch with local friends and community using that also. It's been more challenging, I think, for other people, on my other side of the family. I think the other grandmothers had a lot harder time, but there are nieces and nephews that live closer that she'll use their phones because she doesn't have the Zoom or the WhatsApp on her phone. And so every time they go visit on Sundays, they'll, make sure to call us or connect so that she can do it with them. But I think it is challenging because I'm sure there are a lot of older people that just trying to learn how to use Zoom or trying to learn how to use these technologies is just a little too much, which is why, the idea of actually making cards like Jen's daughters did, or, sending have kids do drawings, things like that, where I think it probably, especially for that generation, having something physical is really, really meaningful, or sending pictures, things like that. I think it's been really hard for grandparents not to see their grandkids, so trying to, anything we can do to kind of make that connection is still really important.
My kids got in the car one night and my husband and I drove them down to my parents' house, which is about 35 minutes away. And we just got out, we were all in our masks, and we stood on my parents' front lawn to sing happy birthday to my mom. And it was just like, it was the middle of the winter. So, we couldn't go in, but we dropped off some flowers, and it was just kind of like doing those little things. Like prior to COVID, would I ever drive all the way down there and just like be like, hey, and go back? No, but it was those types of things that we felt like, this is important, this needs to be done. But another thing, like you said, about like actually receiving something physical, I felt that was important too. And my kids love those love pop cards where you open them up and then like something kind of pops out like it's paper, So for Thanksgiving, I always was Thanksgiving, and my husband and I decided that we wouldn't, and that was also what the state's advice was for us, not to have big gatherings. So we didn't. But I felt that like a lot of our family members were very disappointed, or would feel disappointed, because we all weren't getting together as a family. But I wanted them to also feel that, we still cared about them, and we were disappointed too that we weren't having it, even though we were being firm about everyone not coming over. So the kids and I ordered these love pop cards where you open them up and it was a turkey, or it was a cornucopia, you know, which is like a bunch of fruit. And so we sent those to all of our family members who usually come for Thanksgiving, so that they had like, you know, a little something to cheer them up, because to commemorate the holiday, because, you know, if you're kind of on your own, it doesn't feel like a holiday sometimes, you know. So that was kind of neat.
And we also, because Thanksgiving is such a big holiday here, and that is when families always get together, we did a big Zoom call with my family for Thanksgiving also. And what made it kind of even more special this year is my nephew had open heart surgery. He's been waiting for a new heart for, you know, ever since he was born. We knew he was going to need it, and it actually became available a few months ago. So when we had the big Zoom call, and then we did another one actually when he was having the surgery, it was so hard for us not to be there when he was having surgery, and that there was so little that we could really do from a distance. But we all, you know, got together on Zoom and we said prayers together. And then when he was actually in surgery, my sister picked out a prayer, you know, special quotation, and we all were saying that. So even though we were like apart, we all knew that everybody was saying kind of the same thing as he was going through the surgery. And then just to go back to the gaming aspect, when he was recovering and he was just in the hospital and had to spend so much time there, and, you know, couldn't really have visitors other than his parents, the cousins got together and played Among Us. And that was there. And again, my kids were like, yeah, we're helping him get better by playing Among Us. But he did, like, he totally loved it, because he just felt so, you know, kind of there on his own, and he was so bored. So that was kind of neat to be able to do that. Sorry, that's not really talking about the older generation, but you just reminded me because of the talking about Thanksgiving.
Oh, I think that's cute. I think that's adorable. And yeah, what a difficult time though, like when you want to be with your relative, you know, and in this case it was a child as well, and you can't be, you kind of feel so helpless. So it was nice that you guys were able to incorporate those types of things to feel part of the family. And I'm sure that your sister probably really appreciated it as well. You know, it helped her.
Yeah, I think it was really good for the parent, for his parents too. And actually, you know, you're talking about being able to get together. My mom actually was able to go. They live about 3 hours away from my nephew, but they were able to go, and she met my brother in a parking lot, or she and my dad did. And I can't remember if they stayed 6 feet away, or I think maybe they were wearing masks or something, and she passed on like a care package. We had all kind of contributed to her buying some like care package for them. And so they met at a parking, kind of like you said, would we ever in the past, would they have driven 3 hours just to meet for 5 minutes in a parking lot? Probably not. But you know, for this time it was important. And just to go back to the idea of the wisdom bridge and how we maintain not just the connections, but also how we can maintain the, you know, the learning and the heritage of the cultural knowledge that we get from the elder generations. One thing that has been important, not just in the pandemic, but even before, because for us to travel to Costa Rica, it only happens really every couple of years, because it's an expensive trip for, you know, for us with 3 kids, is doing those Zoom calls or phone calls. You know, my husband tries to call pretty frequently back to his family, and that has been a really great way for my kids to practice Spanish. You know, like I was saying before about travel, when they talk to the family in Costa Rica, they really have to speak Spanish, because, you know, the grandmother doesn't speak any English. And so it's kind of forced them to use what we've been trying to teach them. Has been really important.
Thank you so much, Leanna, and thank you, Jennifer. This reminds me of a personal experience too. My son he's in high school now, and his second language is Tamil. And my literary Tamil is like so. So what happens, my father stays in a different city, and they have these calls over Zoom and WhatsApp. And my father teaches my son Tamil literature, and there are these 5 great epics, Silapadigara, Manimegalai, and Sivaga Sintamani, Valayapati, Kundalakesi, and so on. And it's one thing to just read the epic from your book or from a textbook or from a website. But it's one thing when a grandparent actually tells the story and relates it to the current life, because this grandparent knows what the current modern life is like. The grandparent knows what the epics were about. So the relationship, the correlation they make, and when they actually tell these great epics in a way which is relatable to him, and which has some significance to him. Because just talking about kings and palaces and wisdom and knowledge is one thing, but how does it really impact him? How does it really, what does it really mean for him? Is something which my father has been able to do very, very interestingly over these Zoom calls. So I think technology has played a lot of, has really done a great deal of help for us in today's times. And thank you for sharing those interesting incidents and experiences from your families too. And I would like to ask the next question about cultural sensitivity and a larger context of this in terms of social justice and how people of other cultures have been treated, and the issues of the current times which we've specifically faced with regards to dignity, social dignity and social justice, especially during the pandemic. So how do you view this, and what can we do to, teach some lessons for our children, for ourselves to learn as families?
Well, first of all, Purnima, I want to say that story about your dad teaching the Tamil epics to your son is amazing. I think that's so beautiful. And I love the way that the names of the epics just rolled off your tongue, because I'm like, wow. So that was pretty cool. But okay, back to social justice. How am I getting my kids involved? Well, in the US, there were huge movements during the time of the pandemic about racial justice movements, and we wanted to be involved. And we started out by doing an online rally, which was through the Brown Bookshelf, and they had a bunch of different Black authors come to speak, and there was this whole rally for social and racial justice. And the kids came, we were watching it together as a family, and we felt like, this is great, we could be a part of this, we could support this. And that was before we were ready to actually like don our masks and go out into the world. We were still under lockdown. And then something really special happened. There were some high schoolers in my town that put together a Black Lives Matter rally. And we thought, let's throw on our masks and let's get out there, and so it's right down the block. Let's go walk down there and let's do this. And so we got brave, and we thought that this is more important and we wanted to be a part of this. And so we went out there and we walked as a family for Black Lives. And it was a really beautiful ceremony. They had speakers, and our local police were there also and joined into the rally, and it was just really peaceful. And I was just so proud, because I felt like my girls could see this. They could see their parents were here and we're standing up for racial justice. And I really hope that they continue to do the same, and that we continue to do it together as a family.
I think that's really beautiful. That goes back to the idea of modeling. It's one thing to tell them they should be involved, but when they see you going out and doing it, and then you do it together as a family, I think is so powerful. So we've been having a lot of discussions here in our family and also in our Baha'i children's classes. And this is one book that we've read. It's called We Are the Water Protectors. And it just won an award. It's by a woman who is indigenous here in the United States, and talking about the native beliefs about the earth, and also the way that so many of the native communities have been discriminated against, and just the issue of environmental racism and how pipelines have been put across their land without permission. So we've been really trying to talk about it and talk about current events, which is hard because, you want to keep it age appropriate. My kids range in ages from 5 to 11. So the conversations we have will vary. And of course, if you have older kids, you can talk about different things. So it can be hard as a parent, because I think sometimes we want to shelter our kids. And some people have that option and some people don't. Like as a white mom, I don't have to have these conversations with my kids, whereas, you know, Black moms don't get to choose, and you have to start talking about racism early. And so I think for all of us need to be having these conversations young with the kids, is just, but you can do it in a way that's age appropriate, so that they're thinking about these issues. You know, we talk about things that we see on TV and how different people are portrayed. I think these are, especially now, you know, we have more time together at home, that this is a great time to have those kind of conversations, so they can be, you know, they can be kind of thinking more critically about what they're seeing and what's happening in the world.
And I think, Leanna, what you mean by you don't have to have those conversations as a white woman, it's because your kids aren't experiencing any prejudice or racism, and so they're not coming home for you to have those conversations. So they're not forced conversations, and so there's conversations like you're saying that we need to initiate, which is important. I think that's great that you're doing that.
Yeah, and I think that it's a common misconception among a lot of white parents that we need, that if we talk about racism, that suddenly our kids are going to see race. Well, kids see race all the time. I mean, this is there, even if it's not at a conscious level, they're aware of these things because of the media, because of friends, because of, even if we hate to say it, maybe the way that we're acting. And so naming it doesn't make them suddenly racist, which I think a lot of white parents think if we don't talk about racism, then it's not real and it's not there. But we have to talk about it, and we have to have these conversations with our kids, but we can create the environment in which we do that, and make it a safe space where they can ask questions, and make it, because I think we have a responsibility, because there's so many other parents whose children feel unsafe because because of the situation in the world, especially here in the US. There's just so much talk about the parents of Black children and the talks they have to have with their kids about how to keep themselves safe, just because of all the prejudice and in the world. And so I think those of us who don't have to have those conversations need to have those conversations with our kids, so that a friend of mine, and this is here locally, she's a Black mom, and she just posted on social media recently that there was a kid at her school, her daughter's school, who told her daughter they couldn't play together anymore because she was Black. And she says, like, white parents, what are you saying to your kids? Why am I having to deal with this? Why is my daughter at school having another kid telling her that they can't play together because she's Black? And, you know, that it really comes down to how we're raising our kids and what we're talking to our kids about. And so I think it's really important to have these conversations young, but again, to do it in a way that's age appropriate.
I think too, as parents, what I found is you can live in your bubble, and it's kind of like, okay, we're only responding to stimuli that's affecting us. But I challenge people to go out and speak to their friends, their moms that are of other races, and talk to them about, like, hey, what types of racism are your kids experiencing? Has that happened to you? You will be shocked. You will be absolutely shocked. And because I'm like, I'm living in the same world. My kids are going to the same places that your kids are going. And wow, I didn't know that this existed. And I think that those conversations too, you know, be aware, know what's going on, and you know, help when you can. So.
And I think it's important to have that larger context when we're talking about, you know, teaching kids about other cultures, that it's not just about learning about other holidays and trying different foods. I mean, that's all really fun, and we want to keep that fun aspect of it, but we also, especially as they get older, you know, you can have more in-depth conversations about it, but it's important to give kids a larger context in which all this is happening, and how they can understand current events.
Yes, absolutely. It's great.
Thank you so much, Jen and Lena. They were lot of ideas there. And I would just like to, mention here that this webinar series, Yoga for Unity, is commemorating the International Day of Yoga. These are 100 days celebrating yoga, leading on to June 21st, which is the International Day of Yoga. And an interesting thing is, yoga is a word which is having its root from Sanskrit, and it's called yuj, which means to unite. And the significance is a very deep spiritual unity is the significance. And when we talk about these superficial things, which sort of divides us, which is sort of different in all of us, but then again, when we have to go back to this space in our heart, in this deep spiritual sense, and stay united as a single humanity, it makes so much. It's hugely relevant that we are having this conversation, and which in itself is one of the foundations of to stay spiritually united. And thank you so much for all your ideas, tips, sharing your bag of tricks to help us stay connected with our own families, our own extended families from across even continents, especially during these digital times. I would like to say digital times rather than pandemic. This day, the International Day of Families, designated by the United Nations, it provides us an opportunity to promote awareness of issues related to families and to increase our knowledge base of social, economic, emotional, and demographic processes which is affecting families. Not only in terms of, like Leanna said, the superficial state of liking the food, learning the culture, but in a deeper sense, to understand the context with which all of this affects us in a very unified cultural way. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your love today with all of us.
Thank you so much, Purnima. We look forward to doing yoga up to International Yoga Day.
Thank you.
Thank
Jen.
you so much. This is a really special opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanna. Thank you, Jen.